Go and look at your laundry shelf right now. Go on. Look at that plastic jug. Turn it around and read the back of it, the small print, the part they do not want you to read. You will find a list of things you cannot pronounce. Sulfates, brighteners that are not soap at all but dye that coats your clothes to trick your eye, perfumes made in a lab, and water. You paid for water. Most of what is in that heavy jug you carried out of the store is plain water, dyed blue, and you hauled it home and you poured your money down the drain. A family of four spends well over $150 a year on laundry detergent, more if you buy the fancy pods. And every year that number climbs, and every year the jug seems to get a little smaller, and you do not say a word, because you believe there is no other way to get your clothes clean. There is another way. There has always been another way. In Holmes County, Ohio, in the heart of the largest Amish settlement on earth, there are women washing laundry whiter and cleaner and softer than anything that comes out of your machine, and they are doing it with no electricity, no plastic jug, and not one drop of store-bought detergent. They have done it for over 200 years, and the things they use cost pennies, not dollars. Pennies. The knowledge is not patented, it is not new. It is older than the washing machine, older than the detergent industry, older than this country itself. And it was taken from your grandmother on purpose, so that someone could sell you a blue jug full of water. I am Levi Miller. For years now, I have been sitting at the tables of old order Amish families in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and here in Holmes County, Ohio, writing down the old skills before they slip away for good. And what an Amish grandmother taught me about washing clothes changed the way I see that shelf in the store. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to do it yourself this weekend for almost nothing. So stay with me, because this one is going to make you a little angry once you see how simple it is. Let me take you to a kitchen. Her name is Mary Yoder, and she is 81 years old. She lives outside the village of Charm, Ohio, which is a real place, with a real name, and a more fitting one I cannot imagine. Her house sits at the end of a gravel lane, wide and plain, with a line of laundry strung between two poles that runs the length of the yard. When I arrived, it was a Monday, and Monday is wash day, and it has been wash day in that house for longer than Mary has been alive. Her mother washed on Monday. Her grandmother washed on Monday. The rhythm of it goes back further than anyone can count. Mary's hands are thin now, and spotted with age, but they are strong, and they move without thinking, because they have done this 10,000 times. She showed me her wash. Sheets so white they hurt to look at in the sun. Her husband's work shirts, ground in with soil and sweat and machine grease, come clean as Sunday, and not a machine in sight. Just a tub, a board, a wringer, and three simple things she makes or buys for almost nothing. I asked her how clothes could come cleaner by hand than by the machines we all use, and she smiled at me, the patient smile of someone who has heard foolish questions before, and she said, "The machine does not clean the cloth. The machine only moves the water. It is the soap and the soda that clean, and we have better soap than you do." Then she said the thing I have carried with me ever since. She said, "Clean is not bought. Clean is known." Clean is not bought. Clean is known. Hold on to that, because by the end, you are going to understand exactly what she meant, and it is going to change how you look at every shelf in that store. Now let me tell you how it actually works, because this is where it gets good, and this is where you learn something true. Here is what almost nobody understands about getting clothes clean. Dirt does not just rinse away in water. The grime on your collar, the grease on your husband's work shirt, the stain on your child's knees, all of it is held to the fabric by oils, and oil and water do not mix. You can rinse a greasy shirt in plain water all day long and it will come out just as dirty as it went in. To get it clean, you have to break the bond between the oil and the cloth. You need two things working together. You need something to lift the grease, and you need something to soften the water so the grease has somewhere to go. That is the whole science of laundry. Lift the grease, soften the water. Everything else is marketing. The detergent industry knows this, and they make those two simple jobs sound like a mystery that only their laboratory can solve. But Mary Yoder solves it with three things, and I am going to give you all three. The first is washing soda. Now listen closely, because people confuse this. Washing soda is not baking soda, though they are cousins. Washing soda is sodium carbonate, and it is one of the oldest cleaning agents known to mankind. The ancient Egyptians used a natural form of it. What it does is beautiful in its simplicity. Washing soda is alkaline, and grease, chemically speaking, is an acid. The soda neutralizes the grease and lifts it right off the fiber, and it does the second job too. It grabs the hard minerals in your water, the calcium and the magnesium that make water hard, and it pulls them out of the way so they cannot block your soap. The laboratories that study water chemistry call this softening, and washing soda is one of the finest natural water softeners there is. A box of it costs a couple of dollars and will wash load after load after load. The second thing is soap. Real soap, not detergent. And there is a world of difference, which I will explain, because it is the heart of this whole story. Mary makes her own from rendered fat and lye, the same way every farm woman in America made it for 300 years. When you combine fat with lye in the right amounts, a reaction happens that the chemists call saponification, and the fat and the lye transform completely into soap and natural glycerin. There is no lye left in the finished bar. It is gone, changed into something gentle, and that soap molecule is a marvel. One end of it loves water, and the other end of it loves grease. So when you work it into a dirty shirt, the grease-loving end grabs the dirt, and the water-loving end carries it away into the wash water. That is how soap has cleaned for thousands of years. Mary grates a bar of her soap into flakes, and a small handful is all a load needs. The third thing, and this is the one for the whites, is bluing, or a touch of borax, and an afternoon in the sun. But that is getting ahead of myself, because that is the secret within the secret, and I am going to save it, because it is the best part. So there it is. Washing soda to soften the water and cut the grease. Real soap to lift the dirt away. Two things, pennies a load. And they out-clean the blue jug because the blue jug, as you are about to learn, was never even trying to get your clothes truly clean in the first place. But that is only half the story, because you have to ask the question, if real soap and washing soda clean better and cheaper, then why is your cabinet full of detergent instead? Why did this knowledge vanish from American homes in a single generation? Who took it, and why? I will tell you. And it is one of the dirtiest stories in this whole series. For 300 years, Americans washed with real soap. Every farm made it. It was a fact of life, as ordinary as bread. But real soap has one quirk. In hard water, the kind most of this country has, real soap can leave a faint residue, what the old folks called soap curd, unless you soften the water first with washing soda. The soap companies of the early 20th century saw that quirk, and they saw an opportunity. During the First World War, and then more so in the years after, chemists learned to make a new kind of cleaner out of petroleum, out of oil. They called it detergent. It was not soap at all. It was a synthetic chemical built in a factory, and it did not curd in hard water, and best of all, from the company's point of view, it could be patented and sold and controlled in a way that a bar of homemade soap never could. You cannot patent the soap your grandmother makes in her own kitchen, but you can patent a synthetic molecule, and you can build a factory, and you can run advertisements, and run them they did. Through the 1940s and 50s, the detergent companies spent fortunes, absolute fortunes, teaching American women that homemade soap was crude, that real soap was old-fashioned and dingy, that a truly modern, truly clean home used their synthetic powder. They invented the very idea of whiter than white, and then they sold you a dye, an optical brightener, a chemical that does not remove one speck of dirt but simply coats your clothing and reflects blue light to fool your eyes into thinking it is cleaner than it is. Read that label again. Those brighteners are still there. You are not buying clean. You are buying a trick of the light. That is the villain. The petroleum detergent industry, which took a skill every household owned free and forever and replaced it with a patented chemical in a plastic jug that you must buy again and again and again until the day you die. They did not sell you clean, they sold you dependence, dressed up in the color blue. And here is how complete the conquest was. Before the 1940s, nearly every home in rural America made or bought plain soap and kept a box of washing soda by the tub. By the 1960s, barely 20 years later, synthetic detergent had captured the overwhelming majority of the American laundry market. In one human generation, a skill that had lived in every household for 300 years was nearly wiped out. That is not the slow drift of progress. That is a deliberate campaign. And it worked, because it was aimed at the most tender spot there is, a mother's worry that her family might not be clean enough, might not be modern enough, might be judged. They studied that worry, and they sold to it. Researchers who have looked back at the advertising of those decades have noted how relentlessly the word modern was paired with the word clean until the two became one idea in the public mind, and the old free methods were left wearing the word dirty whether they deserved it or not. They did not win on performance. Real soap and soda clean beautifully. They won on shame. Remember that, because shame is the quiet engine under every forgotten skill in this whole series. They made our grandmothers ashamed of the very knowledge that made them free. And there is a cost to that conquest you are still paying beyond the money. Those synthetic detergents do not break down the way soap does once they leave your house. For decades, the phosphates in them choked the rivers and the lakes with algae, until laws finally forced much of it out. Real soap, made from fat and lye, returns to the earth gently, the way it came. So when you make the switch, you are not only saving money and getting cleaner clothes, you are taking one small thing out of the water that your children and their children will drink. The old way was never only the cheap way, it was the clean way, in every meaning of the word. But that is only half the story. Stay with me, because the how is even better than the why. Let me walk you through exactly how Mary does a wash, step by step, so you can do it yourself this weekend. And I promise you, it is simpler than you think. And you do not need to be Amish, and you do not need to give up your machine to start. You can use every single one of these methods in the washing machine you already own. Here is the hand method first, the way Mary does it. She fills a tub with hot water, as hot as the stove can make it, because heat helps the soap and soda do their work. Into the hot water she stirs a half cup of washing soda until it dissolves, and then a handful of her grated soap flakes. She lets the clothes soak in that for a while, because soaking does half the labor for you. The soda and soap loosen the dirt while she does other chores. Then comes the board. The washboard is not for scrubbing the life out of the cloth. It is for working the soapy water through the weave, especially at the collars and the cuffs where the grime collects. A few passes is all it takes. Then she runs each piece through the hand wringer to press out the dirty water, drops them into a second tub of clean rinse water, rings again, and out to the line they go. The whole wash for a family takes her a morning, and it costs her pennies, and her arms at 81 are stronger than most men half her age. Now here is how you do it without giving up your machine, because most of you are not going to start hauling tubs tomorrow, and that is fine. Start here. In your washing machine, add a half cup of washing soda to the load along with about 2 tablespoons of grated real soap, or a third of a cup of homemade liquid soap. That is it. That replaces the jug entirely. For the cost of a few pennies a load, you get clothes that are genuinely cleaner, because you have softened your water and used real soap instead of a coating of brighteners. Your towels will come out more absorbent because there is no detergent residue gumming up the fibers. Your dark clothes will stop looking faded because that fade was never wear. It was detergent buildup. People write to me stunned at how their old clothes look new again after just a few washes this way. They were not worn out, they were coated. What does this cost you for a year? A box of washing soda is about $3 and lasts for months. A few bars of soap, whether you make them or buy plain ones, cost a few dollars more. Call it $20 or $25 for a full year of laundry against the $150 or more you are spending now. And every bit of it is gentler on your skin, on your clothes, and on the water that leaves your house. Now, if you want to make your own liquid wash, the way many Amish households do for ease, here is the whole recipe, and it could not be simpler. You grate 1 bar of real soap into a pot. You add about 6 cups of hot water and stir it over low heat until the soap melts completely into the water. In a large bucket, you put a half cup of washing soda, and if you like, a half cup of borax for extra grease-cutting power. You pour the melted soap mixture over the powders, stir, and then top the bucket up with about 2 gallons of hot water. Stir it well, put a lid on it, and leave it overnight. By morning it will have thickened into a soft gel. That bucket will wash dozens of loads, and it costs you well under $1 to make. Half a cup of that gel is all a machine load needs. People write to me astonished that something so cheap and so simple does the work of the jug they paid $20 for. But the soap and the soda are only the everyday work. The real test of a washerwoman is the stain, and Mary has an answer for every one, and not one of them comes from a bottle with a brand name. Let me give them to you, because these are worth their weight in gold. For grease and oil, the kind that comes home on a work shirt, she rubs a little dry washing soda straight into the spot before it ever goes in the wash, and the alkaline soda saponifies the grease right there on the cloth. For blood, and any mother knows blood, never hot water, because heat sets it forever. Cold water and a paste of soap, worked in and left to sit, lifts it clean. For sweat stains and the yellow at the collar, a paste of baking soda and a splash of vinegar, which foams as the acid meets the base, and that foaming action carries the stain up and out. For fruit and berry, boiling water poured through the stain from a height before any soap touches it, flushes the sugars out before they set. For grass on a child's knee, a dab of real soap, and then, you guessed it, straight into the sun. And for the mystery stain you cannot name, a soak in washing soda and warm water overnight will lift more than you would ever believe. Not one of those treatments costs more than pennies, and between them they handle every stain that life throws at a family. The store sells you a different colored bottle for each one of those jobs, a whole shelf of them, and every bottle is mostly water. Mary does the lot with 3 things from her pantry. But that is only half the story, because there is one more thing, the thing that gets Mary's whites whiter than any bleach, and almost nobody knows it anymore. This is the secret within the secret. I asked Mary how her sheets got so blindingly white without the harsh chlorine bleach we all reach for, and she laughed, and she pointed straight up at the sky. The sun, she said. The sun is the finest bleach the Lord ever made, and he gives it away for free. Here is the science of it, and it is real. Sunlight contains ultraviolet light, and ultraviolet light breaks down the molecules that cause stains and yellowing. It is a natural, gentle bleaching action that brightens cloth without the harsh damage of chlorine, which actually weakens and yellows your fabric over time. When Mary hangs her wet whites in the direct sun, the ultraviolet light goes to work on every fiber, and by afternoon they are brighter than any jug of bleach could make them, and the fabric is not damaged at all. It is strengthened by the airing. The old farm wives knew to lay their whites right on the green grass in the sun for the worst stains, because the combination of sun, moisture, and the chlorophyll in the grass bleaches even better. It sounds like an old wives' tale. It is not. It is photochemistry, and it is free, and it has been buried under 60 years of advertisements for chlorine bleach. And here is Mary's own test, the one that proved it to me. She took two pillowcases, both yellowed with age, the same age from the same set. One she soaked in store bleach the modern way. The other she simply wet and laid in the sun for a full day. The bleached one came out white, yes, but thin, with that faint smell, and a touch more brittle in the corners. The sunned one came out just as white, smelling of nothing but fresh air, and strong as the day it was woven. She has used that same set of pillowcases for 30 years. 30 years. Try getting 30 years out of anything you wash in chlorine and run through a hot machine. That is the secret within the secret. The sun does for free, and better, what you have been paying to do worse. Now let me zoom out, because this was never really about laundry. When you learn this, something shifts. You walk into the store, and you see that aisle, that whole towering aisle of brightly colored jugs and pods and sprays, and for the first time you see it for what it is. A wall of water and dye and petroleum, sold to you at a markup of who knows how many times its worth, built on the back of a skill your great-grandmother had for free. You see the trick, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. They took something from us, not just a recipe. They took the knowing. They took the quiet confidence of a woman who can keep her family clean with her own two hands and a few pennies, and they replaced it with a dependence on a jug she must buy forever. They taught us to feel helpless without their chemicals, and helplessness, my friends, is the most profitable thing in the world to sell. Clean is not bought, clean is known, and the knowing is yours to take back. So, here is what I want from you. In the comments below, tell me one thing. What did your mother or your grandmother hang on the line to dry? Did your family have a wash day? Do you remember the smell of sheets that had dried in the sun? Tell me where they lived and tell me their name if you can. I read every one of these, and I promise you, reading all of those memories gathered together in one place will do something to your heart. And if this stirred something in you, if you felt that quiet pull toward a life that depends a little less on the store and a little more on yourself, then I would be honored to have you subscribe. Not to smash a button. I do not care about buttons. To join something. There is a quiet movement of folks out here relearning the old skills on purpose, because we have decided we will not be helpless. We do not shout about it. We just hang our wash in the sun and we know what we know. If that is you, you belong here. Next time, I am going to take this one step further. I am going to show you the single bar of Amish soap that replaced every cleaning product in the entire house. Not just laundry, dishes, floors, hands, hair. One bar, made from almost nothing, that does the work of the dozen plastic bottles under your sink. The cleaning industry buried this one deepest of all because this one bar threatens the most expensive aisle in the whole store. That is the next video, and you are not going to believe how simple it is. But before you go, stay with me one more minute, because I owe you some answers to the doubts I know you are having. I got a letter last month from a woman named Ruth in Elkhart, Indiana. She wrote that she had eczema on her hands for 20 years, and her children had sensitive skin, and she had spent a small fortune on special hypoallergenic detergents that never quite worked. She switched to washing soda and a plain bar of real soap just to save money. Within a month, she wrote, her hands had cleared up for the first time in 2 decades. It was never an allergy to dirt. It was an allergy to the very chemicals she had been told would keep her family safe. And I got a letter from a man named Henry near Millersburg, Ohio. Henry is 69, a widower, and he wrote that after his wife passed, he was helpless with the laundry, spending a fortune and still turning everything gray. A neighbor, an Amish woman, took pity on him and taught him the washing soda method over a fence. He wrote to tell me that his late wife's white tablecloth, the good one, the one he thought was ruined forever, came back to brilliant white after one day on the line in the sun. He set the table with it for the first time in 3 years. I do not mind telling you that letter brought a tear to my eye. Now let me answer the objections straight. You might be thinking, will real soap not leave a residue in hard water? It can, if you skip the washing soda. That is the whole point of the soda. Soften the water first, and the soap rinses clean as a whistle. The two work as a pair. That is the piece the soap companies never wanted you to remember. You might be thinking, is washing soda safe? It is one of the oldest and most studied cleaning agents there is, used safely for generations. You would not eat it, and you wear gloves if your hands are sensitive, the same as you would with any cleaner. But there is nothing synthetic in it, nothing made from petroleum, nothing your grandmother did not have in her own pantry. You might be thinking, I do not have time to wash by hand. Then do not. Use the washing soda and real soap in the machine you already own. You lose nothing but the jug and the markup. Start there. That alone will save you more than $100 this year and clean your clothes better. And you might be thinking, my whites really will not get clean without bleach. Try the sun. Just once. Wash a yellowed white thing and instead of bleaching it, lay it wet in the direct sun for a full day. Then come back and tell me in the comments what you saw. I am asking you to run the same test Mary ran. The proof is free, and it is hanging right there in your own backyard. And one last doubt, because I know it is there. You might be thinking this will not smell like anything, and you are right. It will not smell like the perfume aisle. But understand what that perfume is. It is a chemical fragrance designed in a lab, layered on so heavily because it has to cover the smell of the petroleum cleaners underneath. Real soap and sun do not need a cover because there is nothing to hide. Your clothes will not smell like a chemical meadow. They will smell like clean air and warm cotton, the way clean actually smells, the way your grandmother's linen closet smelled. Once your nose adjusts, you will not be able to stand the heavy perfume of the store aisle again. It will smell like what it is, a cover-up. Mary said something to me as I was leaving, with the sheets snapping white on the line behind her in the afternoon wind. She said, they tell you that you need their box to be clean, but the water and the soda and the sun were here long before the box, and they will be here long after it. We just never forgot how to ask them for help. And then she said it one more time the way she folds it into everything. Clean is not bought, clean is known. Start this week. Soften the water. Use real soap. Hang the whites in the sun. And watch what happens. The proof will be in your own hands by the end of one wash day. That is how this knowledge comes home, not by being told, but by being done, just once, until you can never again unsee how simple it always was. Learn it. Take it back. I will see you in the next one.